Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soothing Sundays. We're going to, I'm always here to answer your questions. And then on Soothing Sundays, we start with a nervous system regulation technique to implement during the week. And then I go over some comments and questions that people had during the week, and then I'll answer your questions as well. So I'll get started with the nervous system, the neurological reprogramming technique in a minute. And also, we'll celebrate any wins that you guys have. A lot of you guys stop in every Sunday and Wednesday because that's when I go live here on YouTube. So, and you're very, I love your vulnerability. I love you guys sharing. So I also want to hear your updates on how you're doing. Hi, Bob. How are you? Hi, Big Pontiac. Greetings. Glad to see you. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to get started in a minute with the neurological reprogramming technique of the week. You can drop your questions. Let me know if you have any. And then we'll go over some other stuff. Turn on my, okay. So the neurological reprogramming technique for this week, and I talk about it a lot, like on live streams and intermittently, but I really want you guys to focus on it, and because it's just so helpful, is positive pattern disruption. So you have a pattern, it's probably something you're like, oh, why do I do this? Or why do I want this to be different? Or maybe you start and you're kind of inconsistent about it. It could be staying up too late. It could be just some reaction that you have that you don't like, anything like that. So the positive pattern disruption is noticing what's going on. So we have to have an awareness. So hopefully you have the awareness, like, here's what I don't like, here's what I want to change. It could even be a thought pattern that you have. Do you have some like scarcity thought pattern around like, there's not enough money or love, or this is always going to be this way, or this is never going to be this way? Get rid of your always and never thinking. I promise you, it rarely ever serves you. In terms of belief systems and limiting beliefs is what I'm talking about. Not like having good standards. So anyway, you want to identify what the pattern is that you want to change. And then you want to be like, okay, here it is. Like, let's say it's staying up too late and eating ice cream, because I get that one a lot. I'm just up too late eating and I know I should go to bed. Okay, notice what's going on. And then decide, okay, what can I do? Give yourself some pause. So take a few breaths before you do it. And by the way, have no judgment. Tell yourself, like, even if I do the same exact thing, it's okay. And why? Because what we resist persists. So if you're creating all this resistance against something, the part of your brain that controls breathing and your heart rate and all of that, that's kind of unconscious, will continue that pattern. So we want to dismantle that. We want to be like, okay, that's okay if I do the same thing, but I have this other option. And just letting yourself know and letting your nervous system know, oh, I have this other option. So that way, the limbic system isn't just completely firing and taking over. The other part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, where logic is, and can actually take over, can actually be in the driver's seat, which it's not a lot of times. When we have these negative patterns that we've had for so long, or reactions, your limbic system is totally doing all the work, and we want to get the prefrontal cortex activated and in charge, in the driver's seat. And then after that, we want to make it a pattern. So once you're able to do that, congratulate yourself for it and celebrate your wins and do more of it. Sleep schedule is definitely something I need to, yes. Yeah, it's true for a lot of people, right? Because, and also if your nervous system is dysregulated, or, and this can come from childhood, right? You could have had some chaotic thing going on as a child. Hi, Miss Priya. I have your question. I'm going to answer it. I'll actually answer it next because you're here. I screenshotted it. Nice to see you. So a lot of us, if we grew up like with chaotic things going on, and it didn't have to be like super abusive, but if things were just dysregulated in any type of way, your nervous system remembers that, and it's difficult for you to fall asleep in adulthood. And so maybe you just even if everything's very peaceful, you'll stay up late, your mind is wandering, or you're spinning. So just noticing what's going on. and telling yourself, okay, I'm doing that thing again. Can I breathe? Because we want to breathe deeply. All the breathing techniques I've given you, but even just breathing deeply, like take 5 seconds to inhale in and take as long as you can to exhale out. Just start there. These things are very simple. I promise you, you don't need all of these like meds and everything else you're taking. It's really actually not that difficult to regulate your nervous system and reprogram your brain for a pattern that you want. And there's a lot of industries in place that don't want you to know that, but I'm telling you guys, okay, your mind is super powerful, and this is a good way to do it. So that positive pattern disruption. And also deciding this week, I am going to engage in positive pattern disruption as much as possible. That is my intention. So that's at the forefront of your mind. Again, the prefrontal cortex is running the show and is taming the limbic system, is taming these old patterns so we could create a new neural pathway. So again, just starting from there, I'm doing this. I'm going to breathe deeply. That creates the pause already. And I'm going to decide to do something different without any judgment. If I do the same thing. Or maybe instead of staying up 2 hours later, you go to bed like 90 minutes earlier or 30 minutes earlier is what I meant. Just celebrate those little wins. We're just taking baby steps towards what we want, and maybe you'll take a big step. It doesn't matter. But do you see when you get the judgment out of it, or what's called the inner critic, which is also connected to stress responses and the limbic system and everything. If we just tame that, if we don't give it a lot of energy, then we give this new thing energy. So I want you to practice that. Identify what it is. I know it's going to be sleep for a lot of you, or going to bed at the right time for a lot of you. And if you could just do that. And again, if inner child work helps, because a lot of us, again, that comes from growing up in a chaotic background, like talk to the 8-year-old who couldn't sleep at night, or the 16-year-old that was like frustrated about something and couldn't go to sleep, and be like, you know what? It's 2026. You can sleep now. You're safe. You're taken care of, and everything is wonderful. You can go to bed and you're going to have the best day tomorrow. Tell yourself that too. No matter what's going on, even if you're not stressed about anything, tell yourself you're going to have the best day tomorrow. Why not prime your brain for that? It's a wonderful thing to do. Let me see. I don't underrated good English, but okay, thank you. Football. Anchoring. Yeah, it's a form of anchoring. There's lots of form of anchoring, but yeah, you're anchoring in we're talking about psychology, not boating. We're talking about psychology. So when you anchor in a new idea or a new feeling around something, so nighttime is not associated with staying up late. Nighttime is associated with self-care and going to bed at whatever that time is. I can't control my sleep. Yes, you can. I can't control my sleep problem. I sleep at 2 a.m. What should I do? Okay, first of all, decide that you can. You can control, I promise you can control your sleep. I know it feels like you can't control your sleep. Maybe for a long time it's been that way, but I promise you, I've had a lot of clients come to me with insomnia issues, and they're like, I have tried every med, I've tried everything possible. In fact, like the last client I had that I dealt with insomnia stuff, she's like, I have a defibrillator, I have all this stuff like physically, and she's like, I've tried everything, and she's like, I know that it's my mind because I'm tapped out. I've tried every med, nothing works. I smoke so much weed, I drink to go to bed. Like she tried everything. She's like, I know that it is my mind that I need to control. And once she decided that, when she took ownership of the fact that like, hey, my mind is this powerful and I can actually control this, even though I've been led to believe that I can't control my sleep thing. So I would start with that, because you're asking what I should do. Know that you have the power to control your mind, and you could change your sleep issue like that. And with that client, we were working together. She was able to sleep through the night after 3 weeks. We were just doing all these neurological reprogramming tools. But the first one was deciding that you don't identify as someone that doesn't sleep well. You don't identify as someone that has sleep problems anymore. They've done a lot of studies where your thoughts, your cells, all the cells in your body are constantly listening to you. And we've known this for a long time, but they just can't suppress the data anymore. So it's like, and you know this, right? You've had butterflies in your stomach. You've watched something and gotten the chills, right? That's your brain communicating with the rest of your body. So the same thing here. I need you to start with a new identity and deciding that, like, I sleep well. I sleep, even if your sleep is shit, I want you to say, I sleep well through the night. I'm in control of my mind and body, and I'm a good, yeah, maybe in the past I used to not sleep well, but from this moment forward, I sleep well. And then doing a nice, like, self-care routine, like a nice evening routine. So because that is someone, if you identify as someone that sleeps well and that it doesn't have a sleeping problem, you have a nice self-care routine, a nice evening routine. So can you do that for yourself? And what feels regulating to your nervous system? Is it a hot shower, a bath, like a steam room, getting in the jacuzzi, or like having some hot tea? Those are the main things I hear that work for people. Stretching, what works for you? So we're giving energy to the solution. We're giving energy to the new identity as someone that sleeps well. Does that make sense? So we have to shift our self-concept away from, I do this, now I do this. It's the same thing I've talked about with, like, I don't know if I could say weight loss on here because sometimes, but like when I've worked with people who want to change their body composition, I'm like, you have to stop calling yourself fat. You have to. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're 300 pounds. You need to stop calling yourself fat. Like, every day I'm getting healthier. Every day you have to change your self-concept, and your identity gets to shift. And then from there, take action. So create a new routine around that. Okay. I'm going to go back to the comments in a second, but I'm going to answer Miss Priya's question. Here it is, Miss Priya. Hey, let me write this question before I forget. And perhaps you could cover it in your next live stream. I always ask you guys to do that. So, a narcissistic parent that says things like, I really want the best for you, or offers to pay for certain things, but later uses that to demand or control over you. And it forces a guilt trap. And this is a very common thing. First of all, narcissist, there's a lot to this question. Thank you for asking it. So narcissists use any type of power, including money, especially money, to try to manipulate and control you and guilt trip you. So they love to manipulate and control people all the time. Again, you have to remember that narcissists do not see you as a person. They see you as supply to either offload their guilt or shame, or both, because they're just ridden with so much guilt and shame that they refuse to metabolize, which is the other part of this, because you feel like you get in this guilt trap, as you call it. And so they're trying to do that, or as a way to manipulate and control you, because they can't handle abandonment. So they need to know that they always just have, like, control over you. Again, has nothing to do with your well-being. Unfortunately, that sucks, right? Especially if it's your parents. Trust me, I know that sucks. That in itself is something to grieve, get sad about if you want, and release, because it's like, oh, I have parents that actually don't want the best for me. They just want to control me and offload all of their guilt and shame on to me because they refuse to work on themselves. That sucks, Miss Priya. So just noticing it what it is, but also deciding to not carry it anymore. At any moment, you could decide, this isn't mine to carry. I'm not doing this anymore. And you can even visualize it like a big bag of bricks, or just smelly, like, bags of shit, because that's really what it is on an energetic level. And just decide, like, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not carrying all of this for you. And whatever guilt and shame you have, it's for you to process now, not for me. Say things like, this is Miss Priya again. Say things, I didn't raise you that way. That's another form of guilt tripping. Or make your parents proud. Miss Priya, you don't exist for anyone else but yourself. A lot of parents, I feel like, don't understand that. And you have kids, and it's not like they owe you anything. So, and you make yourself proud. And by the way, with narcissistic parents, you can never make them proud, because nothing's ever enough. This is true with all narcissists. Nothing is ever good enough. So don't get stuck in that trap, because that's another form of guilt and shame trap that you could get involved in. Like, make us proud. So what is that saying? We're not proud of you? fuck that. Like, no, you get to, like, your parents should be proud of you for doing the right thing, for doing the best that you can. And what I'm hearing is like, if you don't do what we want you to do, then we're not proud of you. Then we're going to make you feel like shit about yourself. That's not cool. That's not okay. And so knowing that and being like, okay, and as a child, there's such a primitive longing to make your parents proud. That's what you want to do. But when we have abusive parents like that, we have to realize that even though we have this kind of primitive urge to want to do that, with them, it's not going to work. So can you reparent yourself? A lot of us that come from any type of anything, like when you reach adulthood, you start to reparent yourself. You're a child, then you're an adult, and you start to reparent the parts of yourself that you didn't get from childhood. Otherwise, it's going to show up and like be like it'll show up in your relationships, these traumas that you have with your parents. So you might attract a partner that's like, I'm never proud of you. Why don't you do what I say? You know, you'll attract that narcissistic partner that mirrors the parts of your parents that are still unhealed. So we have to be proud of ourselves. We have to be our biggest fan. We have to love ourselves the most. I know that's like such a trite thing, like, oh, if you love yourself, it is true. And even for me, it took me a while to like, logically, I knew that from grad school and all this other stuff, but it does take a minute to integrate. But I promise you, when you love yourself, like on that level, everything falls into place. And you get rid of people that it's just this energetic filter that filters out a lot of the bullshit. Yeah, the bar forever moves. Exactly, Bob. It does. It's kind of like, oh, well, now you did this to, like, you're like, oh, well, I did this. I thought it would make you proud. I hear this all the time. I went to law school. I did all this stuff. You're completely living this life that's not your own for your parents. I did this. I married the Jewish or the whatever, the Catholic girl, whatever. And it's like nothing will ever be good enough for any type of narcissist. But I personally feel like it stings a little bit more when it's your parents, because again, we have that primitive tie. And then again, reparenting yourself is so important. That's an excellent question, Ms. Priya. And I know a lot of people have gone through that or are going through that right now. So thank you. What is your advice on marriage? What about it? What is your question about marriage? I mean, I think marriage could be a beautiful thing, but it depends on, if you're getting married for the right reason, or you feel like you have to. Elaborate. When does I reach my higher self? Please reply. Siddha, what does that mean? When does I reach my higher self? I think you mean, when do I reach my higher self? So, your higher self is I'm gonna talk from like psychology and spirituality, because what I practice is very much both. So from a psychology perspective, it's often called our ideal self. And it's how like we would like every area of our life to be: health, wealth, relationships, career, our connection to God, source, whatever you call it. Like that's the ideal self in psychology. And then our higher self from like a spiritual place is like it's connected to God consciousness. It doesn't have any of the ego. It's not connected to our inner critic, basically. And it doesn't have any fears about anything, right? It doesn't have any fears about abandonment, intimacy, our worthiness, anything like that. It's completely void of that. It's just because it's connected to God, Christ consciousness, depending on, your spiritual orientation. I feel like it's being said in different ways, but that's why it's called your higher self. And that is where a lot of spiritual wisdom comes from. And like my favorite, I talk about Carl Jung all the time. There's that book right there. That's the Carl Jung reader. A lot of his, the foundation, I should say, the foundation of his teachings, and he's like the godfather, the grandfather, whatever you want to call it, of psychology, was he was always talking about this connection with the higher realms. And so how do you know? I think that to answer your question, I think that we're always evolving in that way. They're always like, or even if you want to just call it like love energy, like the highest forms of consciousness and um, yeah, consciousness, I'll say, is like love, peace, and joy, which is also called God consciousness. And that's where it's just like this pure energy that doesn't have all these fear-based things. So to answer your question, I would say the more you feel into those states and that you're really in those states of just utter peace and joy and love. And that's what's so beautiful about continuously working on yourselves, continuously doing inner work, is that this happens to me all the time. I'll just be grocery shopping and then it's just like wave of like complete love or complete peace that is underscore. There's no drug that can make you feel that way, and it just washes over you, right? And I know a lot of you are going to be like MDMA, like those type of drugs leave you fucking depressed and they dysregulate your nervous system. But real God consciousness, real love, real peace, real like those states of joy, like they just leave you more elevated. So that's how you know that you're being that you're in touch with your higher self. It is a fantastic question, Bob. Thank you for asking that. And then also, here's the other thing I want to say about higher self is like ask, hey, higher self, I want to know you more. I want to be more in line with you constantly. I want to like live in the vibration of love and peace more. Can you help me with that? Because that puts you in the receptive state. So you're not in this fear and resistant state, these lower frequencies. Now you're like, your intention is like, I want to be connected to you. I want to be connected to you, God. I want to be connected to whatever you call on. So, Christ, Heavenly Father, Holy Mother, God, Jesus, like these are higher states of consciousness that are all connected to your higher self. So ask, and because that, again, what are you priming your brain for? There's a lot of things in this world that are trying to get you in these fear states of consciousness. And so can you be in a whatever you want to call it, God consciousness, or whatever your spiritual orientation calls it. And so in declaring that, like, you know what, I want to be in this state of consciousness. Can you help me? And I'm telling you, it comes with surrender. It's another reason I like that book. I swear, like every time in these live streams, I'm talking about letting go, the book Letting Go. But when you're in that state of surrender, you don't have any resistance. And then you could really be in that receptive state for that God consciousness energy to be a more present, like part. It's God consciousness is always there, but you can feel it. You can be aware of it. You can be present to it. Let's see. I think female higher self is slightly different to male higher self. Yeah, I mean, I think that like everything is energy and everything is made up of masculine and feminine energy. And so, yes, they are different, like the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And we access these different parts of us, but I think that we have access to both of them. But yes, I can see what you mean by that. Let me delete this guy. Hi, Barry. Is your higher self an elevated level of thinking, or is it about fulfillment? Another excellent question. So it's not even about thinking. I mean, you'll filter it through your thoughts, but it's like a level of consciousness. It's an energetic, like for instance, like when you feel very loving towards something, that's like it's beyond thinking, right? Because it's like this level of consciousness, it's another level of energy. Or if you have just full on joy, like yes, you might have some thoughts behind that, but it's beyond thoughts, right? And we can get there if we're grateful for things in our life. The more gratitude's a very powerful way to elevate us into that higher self or God consciousness. So the thinking can help pull our direction or our energy into the right place, so we're not like fear-based, we're in a gratitude loving space. But it's beyond like thinking, and it is if you definitely feel fulfilled. You realize when you're connected to your higher self that you're perfect, You see yourself through the eyes of God. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to fix. You just are. You're just pure love. You're just loved and supported in everything because you are, right? So in that sense, it's fulfillment. But I do also think that we're called to constantly evolve. And so whatever that means, if you have this, like, if you get out of these survival states, whether it's like with a chaotic relationship or it's just a relationship that's not serving you, or you're not worried about like money or anything financial, you can be in these higher states of consciousness. So, and because a lot of us think that, like, okay, yeah, once I do this, once I get X amount of money, once I have this, or once I feel like completely loved or I'm famous, it's not, right? Because that fulfillment comes from within, and it's connected to higher states of consciousness, God, whatever you call it. The more I see, the less I know, and I'm okay with that. Exactly, Joe. Like, exactly. Esoteric perspective is intriguing. Yeah. Whenever you justify something, Miss Priya, we've talked about this. Why are you justifying? Okay, with these narcissistic people, we have to stay out of JADE, which is justify, argue, defend, explain, and also engage. Explain/engage. So with these toxic people, first of all, they also love drama. They love a fight. So you are in your rational mind in problem-solving mode and trying to prove your worthiness. They don't give a shit about that. Their only motive is to continue to make you feel like shit. Again, you are there to barf, like offload all, or they're thinking of you as to exist to like barf all their guilt and shame onto. So they don't want a justification. They don't want to hear anything. I know that defies logic. I understand. I feel like you're coming from a very loving and logical place, but we cannot go into JADE with people that are just looking for a fight, or they just want to not take accountability for anything at all, right? The basis of a real connection and real intimacy, real friendship, real any type of relationship is that both people take accountability, and then both people can, you create your safe space, and it's like, okay, I fucked up and that's okay. Like, you're not going to abandon me, and I'm not going to crumble with shame because I did something wrong. And then the other person does the same thing. And then, when you have healthy conflict resolution like that, you actually deepen the intimacy. Narcissists aren't interested in that. They're terrified of intimacy. So they'd rather not take accountability for everything and blame you and continue to make you feel like shit. So no more JADE, no more justifying, arguing, defending, explaining, or engaging. No more of that. Another question, why do people say, oh, that is a total cope, or just coping? Oh yeah, you said that in here too, that they're just coping. So that seems like kind of like gaslighting and deflecting, like they're coping. They don't cope by guilting and shaming you. That's not a real thing. That's not how you cope with things. You cope with things by processing and taking accountability for whatever's going on with you, even when it's really hard, even when it stings. It's like, oh yeah, I got to take accountability for that. So it's also like the way you're wording it, it also sounds like someone's doing reverse victim. Like, I'm just trying to cope, I'm just doing the best I can. But by offloading and making you feel like shit, no, that's not how someone copes. You cope with, taking responsibility for yourself. So if your parents are saying that or trying to do reverse victim by like, we're just coping, tell them to go to therapy. That's how they cope. I'll talk to him, Miss Priya. A lot of narcissists never go to therapy because that's accountability. Okay, let me scroll back. Oh, I don't know. Did I miss anything up here? David, once I had a dream. I once had dream paralysis a few years ago. I was stuck, frozen, only can move my head, fell asleep. Yeah, that happens. When I prayed it to leave it immediately, yeah, I can move. Yeah, that happens. Okay, so there's a lot of things about sleep paralysis. I do think it's spiritual. And so, yeah, like when I because the sleep paralysis, it's not like a peaceful thing. And so that leads me to believe, yes, it's connected to our fears, but what do lower energies feed off of? They feed off of fear. They just do whatever your spiritual orientation is, they feed off of fear. So if you're in a sleep paralysis, it's usually scary. And so if you start to pray, they go away. Or I've, like, one of my clients was saying that she just said Jesus over and over again and it completely dissolved. That's all I'm going to say about that. But anytime like these lower states of consciousness, I would just say go to a higher state of consciousness, pray. Family can be some of the biggest haters. I know. Yeah. If you watched the interview I did with Coach Brittany, who's also a client of mine, we talk about that. The whole thing was about narcissistic parents. And so, Miss Priya, I think you would get a lot out of that. I don't know if you've watched it yet, but it's about narcissistic parents. And we just are basically just having a long talk about it and educating you guys about it. And so it's unfortunate because you don't want that. It feels like you're supposed to love the people in your mind that are supposed to love you and create safety and support and everything are your biggest haters. Like, that's extremely counterintuitive. It's extremely confusing for a child. And so when you get into adulthood, it can create a lot of trust issues, fears around intimacy. It could either create avoidant attachment, which is like, I want closeness, but I can't handle too much. I feel overwhelmed. Leave me alone. Like, let's just keep thinking. And there's this like buffer that moves back and forth. Or it can create anxious attachment where it's like, I need more closeness. There's never enough reassurance that you're not going to leave me. Are you going to leave me? And both anxious and avoidant are afraid, very afraid of abandonment, but it's just expressed in different ways. And people that have unresolved anxious attachment and unresolved avoidant attachment often find each other and battle it out. And, an anxious person will be like, oh, I always attract these avoidants. And then avoidance will be like, oh my God, I always attract these anxious people. And I just feel like when you're avoidant, you feel like you're going to drown. Like, it's just too suffocating, until we heal those parts of our of basically our nervous system. This is all like stored in our nervous system. And the basis of both is understanding that love, safety, and connection are normal. They're normal and they're safe and they can be consistent, because both people have a fear that love is inconsistent, love isn't safe, love can be dangerous, or all those things, emotionally, physically, psychologically. So knowing that, and that was actually another question that, let me see how she was talking about having an avoidant partner. And she was like, well, what do I do? And this is like a long-term relationship. And so she was asking, I love this person, we love each other, but her anxious attachment comes up and it feels like she goes back and forth of like, should I still stay in this relationship or should I work on it? And the answer to that really is like, is your partner saying this is just how I am? Or are they like, yeah, I do that and I'm going to get better? So if they have an awareness and they want to work on the relationship, I would say absolutely. But if someone's just like, this is who I am, deal with it. And no, I think you deserve better. The whole this is who I am thing is the biggest red flag. I mean, you could say it about some things, but if you're in a relationship and it's like, hey, can you work on this? And they're just absolutely like, no, this is who I am. End of story. Like, I would, but and so part of the question I already answered is like, why anxious and avoidant people do that. But can you talk about it and just also know that especially if you're anxious, it'll make you want to chase that person. And that's exactly what the avoidant doesn't want. It will like scare them away. It will make them overwhelmed. So give them their space. And we all, even in healthy relationships, we need our space. I think it's very healthy. Like these couples that are just like two all the time about everything, I don't know how healthy that is. And, if there's too much avoidance, that's not healthy either. So give someone the dignity to have their own space. And then you can circle back and you can even be like, hey, I'll give you whatever it is, hours a day, whatever, or a day, whatever it is. And then can we circle back around whatever and talk about this. And so saying yes. And then also, if you're anxious, can you regulate your own nervous system? Because the avoidant person can feel that. Trust me, everything is energy. They can feel that too. So can you work on yourself, regulate yourself, and nurture yourself in that way while your avoidant partner is figuring it out and taking time to regulate their own nervous system? But yeah, it can be worked on. I mean, I've had a lot of clients, and some were couples where we worked on that, and both people felt safer in the dynamic, and they felt more connected to each other because each one of them got over their abandonment issues. Abandonment issues are so common, but we often suppress them. How to overcome anxiety. This arc, how to overcome anxiety. It's become too unmanageable lately. I'm feeling too low, by the way. I've done CBT, okay, good sessions, and lately I'm researching nervous system reset. Well, you're in the right place. Um, I feel so low. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you have anxiety and depression. So, because you started with saying, how do I overcome anxiety? But you're also feeling really low. So you have both going on. Anxiety is a preoccupation with the future, something that hasn't happened yet. It's a way to keep your brain is just trying to keep itself safe, right? And then depression is a preoccupation with the past, which also doesn't exist. And we are clinging onto something that gets to be released. Actually, in both cases, there's something to be released, but it sounds like you are going between both. So if and CBT can be effective, but I wonder if your CBT practitioner arc asked you like what the anchor was or what the specific trigger was, what's called an antecedent. There's ABC. So the antecedent is, so we have the antecedent, then the behavior, then the therapy or the reaction. So like, because I don't know, not that you said, but I'm just getting the feeling that that wasn't the case and they just maybe went right into CBT. But if you can pinpoint what in the past you're holding on to, that's making you depressed, giving you like regret, shame, there's something there in the past, and then there's something in the future that you're worried about. And I'm sure they're interconnected because they 99% of the time are. But if you can become aware of those and really pinpoint those, and then maybe go back to CBT and work from there, that is going to be more effective than just going right into the techniques of like, okay, let's get rid of the anxiety. Sometimes we have to lay that foundation first, and not all practitioners remember to do that. So that's where I would start. But the fact that you're here, the fact that you're asking that question, I know that means that you want to change. So give yourself credit for that. And also, again, start to give yourself credit for that, and then the energy of whatever it is, the outcome that you want. So what I mean by that is, can you celebrate that when that you showed up on this live, you asked that question, and that is a form of self-care. Even that is an act of you getting better, to not be in this, like, stay in this lower state because you don't want it anymore. What I'm hearing is that you don't want to be in that state anymore, and that's an amazing thing. So can we create new and positive momentum in that direction? But I would start with just a simple writing technique of identify what in the past is triggering you, what you're holding on to, and then what you're perseverating around, like in the future, that hasn't happened yet, but you're worried about it. Your inner critic is like on 10 about it. And then from there, implement the CBT techniques, because CBT is really good it's a really good modality for what you're talking about, Arc, but you have to do that foundational work first. I haven't loved myself since 1988. Why haven't you loved yourself? Like, we have to be the main character in our own life, and we really do. You really do have to make yourself a priority. Um, everybody needs. Can I get off meds if I'm bipolar? Well, I am not your psychiatrist, so I cannot answer that. Have I worked with tons of people and helped them get off their meds? Yes, but that is so I can definitely not answer that for you on this live stream. If you know me, I'm not a fan. I think meds are very overprescribed for everything, but especially mental health. So I'm not a fan of them, and I feel like they do a lot more damage to you emotionally, physically, psychologically, and even spiritually. So I think that if it's an emergency, if you really feel like you're going to hurt yourself, things like that, then fine. But they should be a temporary fix to get you moving in a more positive direction. But I would definitely, and if you're wondering about that, like talk to, maybe interview some other psychiatrist besides the one that put you on those meds if you're wanting to get off of them. Let's see. Okay, let me scroll all the way down. Let's see. I love this. Oh, nice. Hello, how are you? Um, what do you think about marijuana for mental health? That's a good one. I continuously research that. When I have clients, especially when they first come to me, they're like, "Yeah, I'm using this to cope, blah, blah, blah." I mean, ultimately, I don't think it's great for you. Like, Dr. Amen, Dr. Daniel Amen, his name is literally like you're saying amen, but he's one of the leading brain doctors in the world, and he is one of the only psychiatrists that actually studies the organ that he's diagnosing, which is the brain. You go to a psychiatrist, and they're like, "Here's your prescription for your meds." They never even, but he actually does brain scans. And he doesn't have great things to say about weed, about marijuana. And it does, what I always noticed is like when people, especially they started smoking weed during like adolescence or, puberty around there, I can tell in their speech. And so some of the speech pattern, I don't think it's that good for the brain. Like it could be a temporary thing. When I work with clients, they end up not needing the weed anymore. So if you feel like you temporarily need it, but I would try what I would invite you to do, Abba, excellent question, is to, let's say you're smoking whatever a night. Like, can you cut it in half? Or can you cut it by a fourth, something? And can we start to taper back? Because weed, alcohol, a lot of things. I mean, it can even be TV. It's a form of numbing something out. And when we numb something out, it'll be stored somewhere in our nervous system. Remember, your brain is here, right? But it also goes all the way down your brainstem, all the way down your spine, like through your nervous system. That is part of your brain. So we get these aches and pains. We get like certain weird diseases, or always getting this type of cold or whatever. It's because we have some suppressed some emotion, right? Again, that's why I like it, letting go. It's about releasing that stored energy that we don't need anymore. So ultimately, I do not think that weed is excellent for mental health, especially if you're using it to cope. I also feel that way about mushrooms, even though there's positive evidence that shrooms can do things for healing certain brain injuries. I just like microdosing on something for the rest of your life. I don't I don't think that's great. Why are so much more than suicide? Why are so much more men suicidal than women? I don't know the stats on that, but what I will say is that I feel like I know from just research and in general that it is more socially acceptable for women to express their feelings, especially the negative ones. And men are supposed to suppress all of their feelings and pretend like they don't have any. And so after a while, that becomes too much. And that's another way, or one of the reasons I create this space, because I want everyone to feel like they can say whatever they want. Fried chicken yesterday. Nice username. But I do think it's because we've been taught that society says that you can't have feelings if you're a man, and of course you can. I think men are very feeling creatures. It's obviously expressed in different ways, but and again, this is where real intimacy comes into place, whether it's with your friends, family, or a romantic partner. Can that safe space be created where you can like truly be yourself? And that means talking about things. That means like having the the feeling like you have the safety and support to say whatever is on your mind. And so I do think that, men feel like they don't have that, or they feel like they're not supposed to have that, like because of some programming that they were told. Hi, James. How are you? Hi, Lauren. Blessed to be on this. Blessed to have you here, James. Yeah, personal time is so important, Bob says. 100% need personal. Yes, we all need personal time and space. It's really important. And I feel like in relationships, what I've noticed with my clients, it's like that's a hard thing for them to ask for. And it's like we all need that. I really feel like it's an important part of emotional and psychological hygiene is to have your own space, even if that's threatening or scary to you because you feel like someone else is going to leave or whatever. You need it more. We all need our time to just not really regulate our nervous system, because if you're with someone that's safe, you can regulate your nervous system with them, but also just we just need our own time around things. That's why it's important to have your own life and all of those things. That's why you see that with people that especially when a woman has a baby, it's kind of like her whole everything is about body, everything is about this other being, and it's kind of like I need my own thing. Like, and you hear a lot of like moms, especially newer moms, like I can't wait to go to work, even if it's just for a few hours, because we need to regulate in that way, especially if you're doing a lot of caretaking. Bob, please keep on topic. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Bob's keeping it orderly up in here. Thank you, Bob. He's helping me moderate, and we love that. So let's all thank Bob a ton. Mental health, yes, exactly. Let's see. Yes, let's definitely keep it on topic. Okay, let me scroll back down. I truly believe in forgiveness for good mental health. Yes. Also meditation to learn to not identify and believe the worst thoughts. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of that. Root radius, is that what it is? Yes, forgiveness is so important. If you've ever, what I'm forgetting the name of it. It is A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles, it's about forgiveness, it's about Christ consciousness, and, one of the primary things is, like, forgiveness will set you free. Forgiveness is not just giving the person a free pass. Forgiveness is really releasing the past, because really all that exists is this moment. So can you literally like, everything, can you just let it go? Because at every moment you're creating something new, right? With every breath you take, with every time your heart beats, you're a new person. And so can you forgive? And I mean, A Course in Miracles just gives such a beautiful explanation of forgiveness and what Christ consciousness is, God consciousness. And meditation is very good for regulating the nervous system. It's very good for connecting with the higher self, like we were talking about earlier, connecting to these higher states of being. And also, I really think meditation is just excellent emotional and psychological hygiene, right? You brush your teeth, you take a shower. It really, even if you do it for 3 minutes, and everyone's like, I can't meditate. You can close your eyes and do that. And like when you're meditating, you're in a receiving state. So you pray, you put it out there, and then when you meditate, you receive that good energy. You receive the download, you receive that aha, whatever. You receive the answer that you've been thinking about, like, should I do this? Should I do that? In meditation, you receive that. So I'm always inviting you to meditate. And there's so many studies that have been shown how wonderful meditation is for your brain and your brain health. So if you don't want to do it for any of those other reasons, do it for that. But I'm telling you, the answers to certain things will pop, they'll become so obvious in meditation. Fasting, yeah, I'm a big proponent of fasting. It's great for your brain, but it clears out things. So if you're like, and we all do it, right? You could just be mindlessly snacking or whatever. It gets rid of that. It's like all of a sudden you have to face what that feeling is, what that thought is that you might have been covering up with food or alcohol. And also just on a physical, but this also positively affects because your gut is your second brain. So when we fast, our body, especially if we fast long enough, our body goes into a state of autophagy. And autophagy is basically, it's a Greek word for eating oneself. That's what it translates to. But what it means, it's like your body is eating up all of like the cancer cells, all of the bad cells, and flushing it out. And then so you're in this very elevated state. And then your gut, again, your second brain is working a lot better. Everything's back online in a more amplified way. Okay, Timothy, I'm about to kick you out. Like, stop. Um, Big Pontiac. But is meditation good without a open third eye? That's how you open your third eye. Good question. And like, your third eye is always opening, right? It's a state of consciousness. It's awareness beyond our perceptive, like, 3D, like our five senses. So it's always opening. And like, how are you going to open your third eye if you don't meditate? It's a great, and especially if that is your intention, like, hey, I want to open my third, I want to be more intuitive. I want to understand things. I want to get answers. I want to get downloads. I want to hear what God is saying to me a lot more clearly. Then fine. Then have that be your intention, which is like the third eye type of thing. So go ahead and ask that. Like, but yeah, that's how we get our third eye to open. That's how we connect with these other forms of communication that are always talking to us and always fine. Okay, I'm kicking you out, Timothy. That are always trying to communicate, always trying to give us everything that we want and more. Let's see. But sorry. Water fasting is powerful. It is a powerful tool. It takes, and if you're new to fasting, that is true root. Just start with a little bit. Like just start with 6 hours, or just start with, I don't know, like if you typically stop eating like an hour before bed, can you do 3 hours? And then when you go to sleep, you get a bunch of fasting in too. And then you could wake up and maybe skip breakfast. And then it becomes easier. Like I used to think, oh my God, fasting is so hard. And like, it gets your body likes it. Your body wants to do that. So, yeah, big proponent of fasting. If we let go, we'd realize everything is fine. Exactly. When you let go, and it's so hard, it's so counterintuitive, especially because our inner critic your inner critic only knows the past and your inner critic only knows fear. And that's not a bad thing, especially if you grew up in kind of rough circumstances, like the inner critic was keeping you safe. But now in adulthood, you don't need that anymore. And it's just creating bad patterns, and it's just asking you to hold on to fear when you don't need to. So can you say, thank you for trying to keep me safe, inner critic, but I don't need to. So I'm going to let this go. I'm going to release any form of fear, anything that's keeping me safe or small, any type of like overthinking, right? Is not what we're being called to do. So can I let it go? And can I just sit with the truth, which is probably something that's very loving and peaceful? Can I just let everything else go? Because I'm safe and I don't need the inner critic to try to do all of these things and overthink and over fear this and push people away, or, get anxious about this, or, or try to like hold people too close, whatever. Can you just let it go and be present with what is? When God answered a prayer, I didn't believe it. Oh, well, you said when God answered a prayer, Abe, you didn't believe it. I mean, and you're asking me why? Well, I would ask you, I don't know enough details, But, like, you're saying, like, you heard the answer. I mean, just from that what you wrote right there, maybe your inner critic didn't again, your inner critic is fear-based, and it's like, "No, that can't be the case. It can't be that easy." This is why I say things can just be easy. Things can just be easy. You don't have to suffer. You don't always have to have bad health. Your relationships could just be good and loving. You can like money can just be easy. You can just have the job or whatever that you want. It could like let your life be easy. I'm not saying like sometimes we have to work for things, but I know for a fact that God does not want you to suffer as much as you think you have to suffer. Like God is not transactional. The universe, whatever you call it, you don't. Like things can be easy. And by the way, if things are easier, then you're in a state where you can create more and you could contribute to the world more. I think that's what God wants instead of you suffering. We're told that we need to suffer by other people so they can control us. So maybe that's what's going on here a little bit. It's like, okay, was it too easy? Did your inner critic feel like you didn't suffer enough? Um, but that's something to ask yourself. I agree with you. Let's see, what does that say? Which is our? I do think that a lot of psychiatrists are legal drug dealers, and I just think that they abuse the system too much because that's how they get paid by writing prescriptions. So why wouldn't you write a bunch of them? It's really disturbing. So I would just really use caution when you're doing those things because again your mind is so powerful. That is why I do these things for you guys, for you to understand how powerful your mind is, and anything that you want to be, do, or have, you can by recalibrating your nervous system, creating new neural feedback loops. And a lot of those drugs are going to just stagnate your brain, and it's really not good. um I would recommend looking into short-term psychedelic. Yeah, some of the psychedelic here's my thing about psychedelic stuff, okay? I'm not totally knocking it, and as someone I've done, like, ayahuasca, I've done a few whatever things, but you cannot just do the psychedelic thing and then be like, "Oh my god, I've gone to, those things and or like, the ayahuasca stuff," or just and people are like, "Oh my god, I got it. I'm woke. Like now I'm totally fixed." That's not how it works. You can do the psychedelic to bring to consciousness what's going on, but then you have to do what's called integration. You have to work with someone, talk about the experience and integrate it and understand like it's a lot that can come up in one psychedelic thing. So you have to be able to it'll be just too much to metabolize and then it's just all there. And I see a huge mistake I see that bugs the shit out of me is these people that are just so on their high horse because they had some psychedelic experience which was profound. I'm not taking that away. But then they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm done. I'm fixed." And they're just still repeating the same old patterns. Plus, now they're arrogant and thinking that they know better, and they don't. I mean, I've had friends like that have talked, and they're like, they're trying to lecture me. I'm a mental health practitioner. They're like, "You know what? After my trip," and I'm like, you don't even, and then anyway, just like I said, they're still repeating the same old patterns. So if you do any type of psychedelic thing, please still work with a therapist, a coach, someone that can help you integrate those things into into whatever therapy modality or coaching modality they practice. But you need to understand what all of that was because yes, it can be life changing, but you have to integrate it. You can't just like know these things. Awareness is the first step. Awareness is the first step. Then we have to integrate and then we have to act after that integration to create a new whatever it is. Or something will just fall apart because I've seen it happen every time. Um, just part of must must trust me. Part of it is because men are here to help women, kids, and the elderly, and are valued by strength and income. Once we attach ourselves to job titles or status no one is caring. Yeah, I think you're talking about, like, men and their feelings, like, that conversation, and it's like, yes, okay, like, again, there's masculine energy and there's feminine energy, and then the masculine energy does provide and protect for women, children, elderly, and but that doesn't mean but in both, like, in the female side is nurturing, provides, like, sensuality, all of that, like, stuff. But what I'm saying is like that both people have feelings. Both people have an internal landscape. And I don't know, just in parts of our society, it's like no, men have to suppress that. And that leads to an imbalance in energy. So yes, both men and women have feelings. They're expressed in different ways, but both people get to have feeling. And I will say I also see this with women too, where it's almost like that Stepford wife thing, like I have to be perfect and everything is okay. And da, da, da. No, both people have feelings. Both people have shit come up. Sometimes you just have a bad fucking day. Sometimes you react to something like again in that safe couple bubble I talk about. Sometimes like you get to have a space where you do that, and hopefully you have friends, you have some type of support system where you get to do that. But if you are partnered in any type of way, I hope that what I want for you is to have that safe couple bubble where your experience can be acknowledged and seen and heard. It is literally a human need. Like your nervous system needs that, or it will be dysregulated, and then you'll want to numb out, or these suicidal thoughts, feelings come up. Yes, we need people that love us, exactly. Hi, Bones. Um, Bob, I do mushrooms like once every 5 years by myself as a spiritual, yeah, um, as a spiritual kind of thing. I like to think it helps, but maybe I'm just justifying it. No, it can help. I'm totally okay. Like when my clients do that, and sometimes they'll do it like once a year or once a quarter. And I'm like, okay, we're going to sit down and integrate that. So, because you do have a lot of good realizations that come up, Bob. So I think it can be a really good thing. But are you just like, okay, had that experience, or are you integrating it? Are you like, okay, because those things, you a lot of times you're more open to receive certain things, like certain information that comes from like higher consciousness. And you have to make sure, please put the intention out there, because you're just open, you're just open channel. So you want to be open to the right things. By the way, set your intention when you do those type of things. But also, what did you learn from that? Because some shrooms are like, some of them are like happy and you're like, and then some of them are more, a little bit, people describe as like dark, and they show you like your shadow side, or like why you do certain things or have certain behaviors and the motive behind them. But I think it could all be illuminating. But can you integrate that into, because you can get rid of certain blocks that you have around things if you integrate it. So I think it's just about integrating it. I saw the smallest stars possible, separated by the tiniest space possible. Yeah, without drugs. That's possible too, Abel. Especially if you're a meditator, like if you meditate frequently, you will experience things that people experience when they're on drugs, like the psychedelics or whatever, without any of the side effects. So it's just opening yourself up to the higher states of consciousness. Okay, how do you feel about magic mushrooms for depression? Yeah, so I just kind of went over that. I feel like it's a start. I feel like it's a start, but you cannot use them. You have to work through what caused the anxiety, depression, or PTSD. They can definitely help you and assist you, but I just don't want you to think of I don't want you to think of anything outside of yourself that you need this thing to be okay. But it is there to help you, but not completely like, I need this, or the depression or anxiety or whatever. Like those are all, depression, anxiety, PTSD are all just opportunities to heal and release something. Mushrooms can help, but don't be dependent on them. Cannabinoid system inside. inside your head existing. I don't know. In my experience, CBD can have some positive effects, but THC can make things worse. Yeah. Yeah, some people like THC. So, I mean, people's brains react differently to it, so yeah, I agree, Fresh. It can be a bandage for more complex issues. And by the way, a lot of things can be bandages. Like even negative thinking, you can be addicted to that. And that could be a bandage for looking at things that you don't want to look at. So this is another thing to maybe think about this week. What compulsive behaviors or thoughts do you have? Because that could be a form of numbing out. That could be a way to that could be something that's consciously or unconsciously controlling you. We don't want that. So what can you look at? Because yeah, the weed, it's like it's more obvious. Like I'm making myself my 18th drink of the, you're numbing out, but these things where it's just like these thoughts that are just so pervasive, like, oh, this is gonna go bad. That's an addiction. That is an actual addiction feedback loop going on of anxiety or depression. Or so it's like, can I look at that? What is that suppressing? And sometimes with people, it's suppressing like, oh, things just don't get to be that good. Literally. Maybe you were told that you have to suffer for everything and you don't. So it's worth looking at yourself where you have compulsive behaviors, thoughts, any type of patterns. Even if it's doom scrolling. I mean, it could be so many things. That's why I'm just saying, like, it's worth just looking at yourself. Yes, welcome back. Am I like your human gay? Yes, welcome back, human gay. Hello, Bones. Just forgive everyone, starting with your parents. Yeah, and also forgive yourself. A lot of us forgive yourself for whatever. We're so hard on ourselves. I don't know what happened. I just got cut off, but I'm back. Dang it, Dennis. What are you talking about? Audio. Video and audio cut out, Lauren, in case. Okay, am I back? Yeah, all of a sudden on my end, it just went bloop. Let me know if you guys can hear and see me now. I swear that. No, we're not going to blame you, Dennis. I feel sorry for his. Okay, well, I think technology is awesome. You're back. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Let's see. Yes, I'm back. Life makes you have. It doesn't have to, Abel. I mean, I would say that might be a limiting belief that you could release. Life can make you harder it could harden your heart if you want it to, or it cannot. It could soften your heart. That's definitely been the case for me. Like I feel like when you release trauma, like you don't let trauma define you or certain bad things that have happened. And remember, trauma is just like the definition of trauma is you got too little or too much of something. So if you can let that go and heal that by giving yourself that now, you can soften your heart. Don't let your heart harden. It's not a very fulfilling way to live. And it could lead to addiction. You're fine, Dennis. It came back. Okay. Let's see. Thoughts that replaces them, and even worse. What are you saying, Dennis? Thoughts that replaces them, and even worse, when it's thoughts like losing at every person. Was this a continuation of something? Bob, are you still talking about drugs? You guys can talk about whatever you want. The average person likely does need help dealing with understanding we all do. At any given time, we all need help understanding ourselves. And it's like it's this ever it's this ever evolving process that is actually very beautiful, right? Because everything is within you, everything, but we're it's like we get cut off from that. And so we have to understand that and like know it on a deeper and deeper level. Like right now, I'm really into, like, we all know the kingdom is within. That's actually what I preach here, is like everything, all the tools that you need are within you. But I'm even understanding that on a deeper level. And as I understand that on deeper and deeper levels, I tell you guys about it. And it even sounds more, it just gets actually more and more simple, you know? But it's a lot to wrap your head around at the same time. But I would say that we all get to continuously that's how we evolve. It's a big part of becoming the best version of ourselves. Bob, I always do my best to try to take a lesson from the experience. Good. Usually it makes me more grateful and appreciative. I love that. I always make sure I'm in a good mindset. Yes. I love that. That's perfect. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Bob, is like taking those experiences, integrating them. But I'm so happy that it leaves you with more gratitude and appreciation, because that's what we want. What you appreciate appreciates, literally. If you're ever in like a fear-based, like you stuck in your, like, think about this, what you appreciate appreciates. So can you focus on that? Have some water. There's a lot of evidence that shrooms are the foundation. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of practices that involve shrooms, and they have for a long time. But that's what I mean. They're of assistance. They are assisting us. I just don't want you guys dependent on something to be like, okay, I need this to function. You know, there's a huge difference whether compared to like having an experience that's assisting something. Thank you, John. Okay, I think it's how data transmission works because of certain, oh, I don't know what that's where psychedelics come in, experiencing. Yeah. Ibogaine. I don't know. I'm very curious about Ibogaine, but haven't done it and don't know. I don't know anyone that's done it, actually. 25 years of therapy in one night. Yeah. I read about addicts. Yeah, they're using it with addiction and getting fabulous results. So, like, again, I'm down. Like, I think it's super interesting what the research that they're doing on Ibogaine and people saying it is like doing a lot of therapy at once. You still need to integrate it though. You still need to still work with someone and talk about what happened because it's still a lot for the logical mind to metabolize. Let's see. I hope so, Bob. I've been having the problem for months. What problem? What am I missing here? Okay, well, we won't put that vibe out there. All right, guys, I might wrap up. Let's see if there's anything else coming in. Let's see. Like city vehicles. Okay. Well, guys, excellent questions. Excellent questions. Happy and honored to answer them. And don't forget to incorporate that neurological reprogramming technique, okay? So we're going to create positive pattern disruption around a behavior or thought pattern that you want to change. Notice what's going on, decide you're going to do something different, and then take action towards that. It does not have to be perfect. You can still do some part of the behavior, just do a little bit of positive pattern disruption. Just do something a little bit different each time that's moving in the direction that you want to go in. Yeah, true. Yeah. But yeah, look into it, Dennis, but I don't know. Aubergine resets the brain. Yeah, I mean, I do think that, I mean, everything's spiritual. So I do think that it can really help, right? Um, I just have a limited of what I know about it, but I do know, like, if you do that, like, you have to be, because it can really, dysregulate your heart, so you have to be monitored, like, medically by a medical professional while you're on the trip. I think that's what scares me about it, right? Because you could accidentally have a heart attack, so you gotta be careful, okay? So if you do Ibogaine, like, make sure it's, like, from a real person. I don't think you can even do it in America, you have to go to South America to do it. Um Thank you, Bob, and to our wonderful, beautiful, yeah. Thank you so much, Bob. We appreciate you, being our moderator. It really helps. Thank you. Thank you, Dennis, for saying that. And thank you for all your wonderful questions. I love them. Keep them coming. And again, you could, if you don't want to ask here and you want to just DM me and I'll say it like anonymously, like if you have a question like that. But DM me if you have questions, and yeah, don't forget to follow me on TikTok and Instagram. If you want more help with getting over toxic relationships, narcissistic abuse, definitely download my course. It's going to be very helpful. My course on healing from toxic relationships and really thriving after them. I started that course because a lot of people were like, oh, here's how to deal with it, or here's how to talk back to the narcissist. You don't want to talk back to the narcissist. I want you to be the best person ever. After all of these, I'm telling you, these people could be a launch pad for the best era of your life if you heal from it properly. Thank you. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for subscribing. Best just to forgive and let go. I agree. You're so welcome. Thank you for attending, and thank you for all your amazing feedback, Root, and everyone else. Root Radica. I've noticed natural tone in the most discerning. You've noticed neutral tone is the most discerning. Yeah. That's why gray rock. I call it beige. I'm like, be as interesting as beige. Okay. All right. Because they want a reaction. They're feeding off of your reaction. They either want praise and adulation or they want you to fight with them. They love any type of reaction. And when they don't get it from you, it's very dismantling to a narcissist. So don't give them a reaction. Neutral. Um, all right, guys. Awesome stream. Love having you guys. Thank you again, Bob. You guys have a wonderful evening. Have an amazing week. Practice positive pattern disruption, and let me know how it goes on Wednesday. I'll be here Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific. All right. Love you guys. Mwah.